Ravinder, welcome on Bollywood Hungama.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
How have the last 12 days been for you since the time Family Man Season 2 has released?
The phone stopped ringing, for starters. And it's been overwhelming, the kind of response that we've been receiving, not just from the southern states, from all across the country, from many parts of the world. The congratulatory messages are still flowing in. Ek ke baad ek. This is big. And you know how it's broken the internet in many ways.
No, absolutely. I'll tell you something honestly. We've been getting so many comments on our videos that we want an interview with Muthu that you need to, because I think the character has become so famous now. And it's really fascinating. In fact, Anubhav Sinha had tweeted that the best dialogue in Family Man 2 is JK, mujhe South Indian khana khana hai. Muthu, kaun sa South Indian? 5 states hain South India mein. So that has triggered a debate.
Yes, thanks to Suman Kumar's lines.
Right.
It kind of caught the pulse of most of the people in such a situation. So,
right. So, I've seen comments of people saying that invariably masala dosa to sare states mein same hi hota hoga. But I've traveled to Chennai, I've traveled to Kerala, I've traveled to Bangalore, I've traveled to Coorg. And what I've realized is rasam bhi different hota hai. And the way I think they cook it as well. Like, I'm just giving you one example of masala dosa, for example. It's different. So would you like to elaborate on
that? I'm no culinary expert, but in each state it's called differently. It's no one calls it masala dosa here. It's a dosa in Kannada. It's a dosai in Tamil. It's a dosha in Malayalam. And dosa in Telugu. So the stresses on the sounds are very different. The way they're called is very different. And it's popularly called in Bombay as dosa.
Right. And even rasam
kind of dosa. I see the accompaniments are sweeter in Karnataka.
Exactly.
Much more spicier in Tamil Nadu.
Kerala.
You get a whole range of stuff to eat with it. So
exactly. So I think this argument that masala dosa is the same as everywhere, I think that is wrong, and I think that applies to various other items as well.
Yes. And dosa सिर्फ एक ही डिश है. उसके अलावा तो हर एक स्टेट में बहुत सारे डिशेस होते हैं.
There are many more. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, and the tussle with Milind as well. The Tamil songs and the Hindi songs, that has caught on as well. People have noticed that.
जो भी हॉस्टल में रहा होगा ना, उनको तो ये वाला बात पक्का समझा जाएगा. Like when you want to watch a TV channel, when you on a common, see for instance, a decade before, most of us didn't have access to mobile phones as easily or content on mobile phones as easily as it is now. So एक ही TV था हॉस्टल पे, या एक रूम के लिए तो एक ही रेडियो था, या एक ही म्यूजिक सोर्स था. तो उनके लिए उसका तो कुछ लगड़ा जड़ाई तो होता रहता है ना. Yeah.
Right. And it is so interesting that when your character is introduced in the series, it doesn't seem that, by the end of it will become so significant. Because after a point of time, he becomes the core member, and he plays, I think, a very crucial role. At the airstrip, when he says that the way he was speaking Tamil, it was not the Tamil that is spoken in Tamil Nadu, it is a Tamil that is having a Jaffna accent.
Yeah.
So it does come in handy. Like you come in very handy. You prove to be very crucial in the entire scheme of things.
As an aside, Muthu's entry is the most dramatic one. आपको याद रहा होगा, एक कार का विंडो ऊपर आएगा, ग्लास, उसमें इसका परछाई दिखाई देगा. It's the most dramatic, if you could say, like commercial cinema kind of entry, was only for Muthu. The rest of them have a very casual entry into the frame, if you've noticed.
Right.
Even Raji's entry is like a long shot of her standing in the mills.
Right.
Initially, when it was thought of, we didn't know this character is going to be so big. This was a bridging character. And if you see, there's no emotional standpoint or an emotional arc for Muthu. Whereas the rest of them have something tying them to family, to friends. Here, it's on the line of duty. So I remember complaining to the writer Suman Kumar or even to DK saying, "Oh, dry hai, kuch masala nahi hai Muthu mein." And then I'd like, I understand the sense of this role is to bridge between the languages, Tamil, Hindi, English, and to be the man on ground, the local guy, the guy who's providing support. And I don't know how people perceive this as much bigger than what it was initially meant. But thank you to the audience for all that, and of course the makers.
I believe Suman's wife was your senior. Tell us something about it.
About her. She's about 5 years my senior in medical school in which I studied. And I had known Suman since then. Her name is Chitra, Dr. Chitra. She practices in Bangalore. So I'd known him through her. And then she left town to go pursue further studies. And Suman was there, and we all used to hang out for the longest time. जैसे बोले उसका घर ही पार्टी का अड्डा था. तो जो भी पार्टी के अड्डे में होता था वो सब वही होता था. There were times when we used to organize parties and call Suman. This is a very long-running joke in the friends group. Like, hey Suman, there's a party this evening. It's my birthday. Please come. They say, yeah, sure. Where? Your place only. Please come over. So that was how things were back then. And then he was not a writer at that point. He used to be working for a bunch of companies in the user interface, user experience side of it. Then he wanted to be a writer, and I started doing theater. College mein hi theater ka shuruaat hua tha. Uske baad I practiced. I stopped practicing, joined the theater group that I started off with first. It's called Rafiki. It's based out of Bangalore. And then I worked with them full time. We used to teach theater. We used to perform. Uske baad I moved to Chennai. यहाँ Perch बोल के एक theater group था, performers in Chennai. उनके साथ काफी साल काम किया था. And of course, we've performed with many other groups all across the country and performed everywhere. And then ऐसे ही movies का entry हुआ और अभी Family Man. It's been an interesting journey.
Tell us something about the preparation for the entire role, when you were signed and then how you prepared for the role.
So even though a friend had written this, I had to audition for this. So I auditioned like the rest of them, and then I got through. Us time we didn't know how big Family Man was going to be. It was season 1 had not yet released. We were midway in the shoot in Chennai. That's when season 1 dropped, and we were like, "Whoa, this is huge." And so there was no expectation as such in terms of how big the reach is going to be. Of course, there is Manoj Bajpayee and the veritable cast that it had, including Priya Mani and who were well-known names. In terms of preparation, I don't know. I'm not someone who consciously prepares. Although it's running there in your mind, and sometime before the take, ऐसे ही कुछ हो जाता है. There is no conscious constructing. Yeah, there are ways in which you imagine the costume, how it should look. Should it be too tight? Should it be too loose? This guy is not a cop, but does undercover stuff. So little bit more weight is also okay. Because you see cops, बहुत थगड़ा होता है. And also in the South, in Tamil Nadu especially, they've got these flat abs and these tight-fitting shirts and pants. So it's not that kind of look as well. So this guy has a desk job. It also does field work. That was the brief. And the language mix. That was the most interesting part. As Ravindra, my Hindi is much better than Muthu's.
No, I believe you've learned Urdu while you were
staying
in Bangalore.
No. I said anyone in Bangalore would know a few languages. वहाँ का एक धकनी है, a type of धकनी which most Bangaloreans understand. So I don't know Urdu per se, but I can get a sense of that language. So this mix of language जो है Muthu ka, it had to be in Hindi, it had to be Tamil, it had to be English, and the transition had to be smooth. And so Muthu's Hindi would not sound like a native speaker's Hindi. मुझे वो जो का और की का प्रयोग है ना, उसके बारे में बहुत confusion है, personally भी. I think Hindi is one of those few languages which has genders for everything. टेबल के लिए एक जेंडर है, रूम के लिए एक जेंडर है, neutral objects have gender. So like, where do I say ka, where do I say ki? And that confusion is there in Muthu's speech. And it'll be, Muthu's Hindi will also be a little shaky because he's translating from Tamil into Hindi or sometimes Tamil to English into Hindi.
Right.
So wo hesitation hona tha, and it had to be a very simple, plain kind of Hindi and not something too complicated that would look unnatural coming out of this character's mouth.
And you also share bonding with Sharib Hashmi.
Oh yes,
JK.
Yeah.
How was experience?
That man, he's like a firecracker. Oh, on set, on screen, off screen भी पटाखा जैसा होता है. He'll have one poem ready, or he'll be singing, or he'll have a joke, he'll have a rejoinder to anything that you say. So he'll always have the last word. जो भी हो सामने, उसका तो खत्म नहीं होगा. You won't expect your line to be the last. Sharib has to end it.
Right.
Just
okay.
Good fun.
You know, a lot of people from within South India, they are very proud of the performance of Samantha. You know, people say that she has outdone herself, be it in terms of the physical prowess. She has said so much through her eyes, body language. You have worked in Tamil and Telugu and I think Malayalam and Kannada languages as well. So
no, I've only worked in Tamil and Telugu.
Tamil and Telugu. So what is your understanding? Do you think that this is a special performance from her?
Well, the kind of work that she's put in for this is immense. The kind of transformation that she underwent, I guess would have, it's every actor's dream. And she did brilliantly. Right from her presence, the way she's holding herself, the way her eyes speak. Because this is someone who's gone through a lot of trauma and stress.
Yeah.
This person's also a trained fighter who's now boxed into a 9-to-5 job and who's facing difficulties day in and day out of different sorts. So must have been a very, very challenging role, and she pulled it off superbly. I guess this is not just restricted to the South Indian language industries or the Hindi industry or any other language industry. That roles for women are like these kind of stellar roles are written very rarely. I mean, of late you see more and more such roles, but usually जब आप hero बताएंगे एक बंदा खड़ा होगा, उसका एक typical image है ना, 6 packs, tall, fair. This is the idea of a hero that you have. So I guess it's also the lack of writing and the lack of push to have more women-centric roles, and see what it has done. It has just like proved to be a brilliant move, and all thanks to her and of course the creators of Raji.
No, of course, and you're a huge fan of Manoj Bajpayee, from what I understand.
Who's not? So that was like a big draw to the show. Like, wow, you're going to be sharing screen with Manoj Bajpayee. And first 2-3 days, there's always that hesitation. It's a new workspace. I, as an actor, take time to getting used to the environment. And then there is this person who you've seen from afar, like from the days of Satya and as recently as Sonchiriya, was it? And yeah, and this man is a phenomenon. And the days that I spent with him, slowly and slowly, the way he put people at ease and made sure that their contribution was also vital in pushing the scene, or giving space to a co-actor. That's a great quality that he had. And on screen and off screen, we shared some very good times, some fun moments, some intense discussions, some like you'd be reading through the script, he'd have you go through the moves, because there are a lot of long shots, not just the action sequences that you see, not just those long shots. In the dialogue portions, there used to be a few longer takes, and you'd rehearse, you do something, and then with every other take, he'd have done something, some small adjustments. And suddenly you're like, oh, this is like very distinct from what he did earlier. And he'll catch you by surprise. And so all of us are on our knees. All of us are on our toes. We're like waiting to respond. It suddenly becomes like a good give and take game. He's bringing on something, and then the co-actor brings on something else, and suddenly the scene brightens up.
Absolutely. And I believe you're doing a film with Pawan Kalyan and Ravinder.
Well, that movie had begun much before Family Man dropped. It was much earlier in the year. I'm doing a small role in that.
Right. So Pawan Kalyan is huge in Telugu.
Yeah. He's a phenomenon. He's like the biggest star, I suppose, or one of the biggest stars.
So how's the experience of working with someone like Pawan Kalyan?
The thing was, we had some action sequences, and there was a scene where him and me face, and he dealt it with the utmost care. What would look like a huge thrash or a kick or a punch, and while shooting it, he would have not even touched you, or it'll just be like a feather touch. And his sense of taking care of his co-actor in that space, no matter how big, no matter how small, he made sure that his co-actor was safe. That was his first concern. And that quality really struck me about him. Well, the movie shooting is still on, so we haven't completed yet. So really looking forward to working with him and Mr. Rana.
If your character in the Family Man 2 were to get a film on him, what would be the title?
Just keep it Muthu.
Muthu?
Plain and simple Muthu.
Okay, if you meet Muthu today, what would you talk about?
Why hasn't he shed weight yet?
Something about Shrikant you wish Muthu had.
All of his parts, all of his lines.
How would you describe JK and Muthu's bond in one word?
Frenemies to begin with, and real close friends to end with.
Okay. How would you describe Chellam sir in one word?
There's no definition. Chellam equals to Chellam. You can't compare him to anything else.
All right. A moment from the Family Man season 2 set that you'll never forget.
Shooting in the airfield where JK discovers that there is C4 on the plane, and he comes running and they start firing at him. There's an action sequence and we have to run into the grass. But the grass is this high. When someone's standing up, in some places it's up to your shoulder length or more than waist length. And we ran off the track and we ran into the grass, and we didn't know that between the track and the grass, there is about 2 feet of space. So he runs, he goes and falls flat on his face. There is JK, suddenly JK disappears. And I go running behind him, Muthu is going, and then Muthu disappears. We both have fallen flat on our faces on the grass. And the entire set around has burst out laughing.
Interesting.
It was embarrassing, but it was fun.
A scene from the Family Man season 2 that impressed you the most?
Very strongly imprinted in my memory. When Milind dies, and Shrikant Tiwari responds to it. There was one which did not make it to the cut, but he did something there which blew our minds. Like intense Shrikant Tiwari.
All right. If you could have any one character from the Family Man season 2 as your BFF, who would that be?
I already have a BFF.
Who's that?
JK.
What, according to you, is the biggest myth amidst North Indians about South Indians?
Lots of them. For instance, which state speaks which language? Or which TV channel belongs to which language? There were some very funny incidents back in college with that.
Okay. Which is your most favorite meme made on your character?
Don't make eye contact. Keep walking. There was one with class teacher. There was one with relatives at a wedding. We're going to ask you, are you going to get married? There's one with, there are street dogs, and you tell your friend, don't make eye contact, keep walking, keep walking. Yeah.
How do you react to these comments on the Family Man 2 on social media? This is by Rajiv Pandit. When I saw Muthu in the first scene, I was observing only JK. Never thought Muthu will be the character that will stay with me after the series is over. What a lovely performance.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. The love has been overwhelming. I really don't know what to say. I'm all thanks.
All right, this is Riaz Ali. Manoj Bajpayee is a superstar of the Family Man season 2, and JK Muthu both are heart of the show.
Thanks to Mr. Manoj Bajpayee for sharing that space with us and making sure that those characters stand out, and to Raj and DK for putting characters on the pedestal and making sure that they stuck to their vision. So it has been one incredible journey.
When I was offered the Family Man season 2, my first reaction was,
yeah.
If I meet Chellam sir, one question I definitely ask him is,
आपको ये सब कैसे पता होता है?
A South superstar I'd want to see in Bollywood film as lead is
Rajinikanth.
All right. So Ravinder, lovely talking to you, and huge congratulations once again.
Thank you.
And please give my regards to your mother, and she should be proud of you. And I'm sure she already is. Maybe she's not showing it. And all the best wishes, and enjoy the success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for taking time out to interview me. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.